Drawing on the Cultural Vision Grant plan outlined for Mecklenburg County, ASC seeks to support high-quality arts, science, and history programming that's happening throughout the county, offered by creative individuals who make a home here and the nonprofit organizations that help us build community and increase relevant and innovative programming for all. ASC has 4 specific goals through the Cultural Vision Grant program, and we're seeking projects that align with these goals. The first goal we outline is to build community by connecting individuals across points of difference to increase understanding and acceptance and positive regard between our communities, really intentionally bringing folks together who might not always share spaces and celebrations. Our second goal is to build community by nurturing, celebrating, and supporting the authentic cultures and creative expression of historically underinvested populations. The third goal we have is to increase relevance and innovation by activating non-traditional performance spaces, exhibition spaces, and other spaces close to where people live. Not everyone wants to drive uptown to experience something and should be able to find things in their neighborhood. Our final goal is to also increase relevance and innovation by providing groundbreaking and participatory experiences that reflect the changing communities in which we live. The experiences that really highlight what it means to be a Charlotte community and to engage folks in that work. Cultural Vision Grants are open to individuals as well as organizations to apply, provided that the project meets our purpose of increasing arts, science, and history in Mecklenburg County. There are designated timeframes for each of our calls that you can find on our website. The project does need to be led by a Mecklenburg County organization that is a 501c3 or nonprofit, or an individual who lives in the county. We do welcome collaborative projects, and if you're working together with partners, select which partner is best to serve as the primary lead in your application. ASC is committed to increasing cultural equity in all our investments, governance, and administrative policies and practices. With that commitment, we are particularly interested in supporting Cultural Vision Grant applications led by, celebrating, and nurturing those of African, Latino, Latina, Asian, Arab, and/or Native American descent, New Americans, immigrants, refugees, and first-generation Americans, people from low-income backgrounds, LGBTQIA+ representatives, seniors, people with disabilities. This list is not meant to be exhaustive, but is meant to really encourage folks from these communities that your lives and your experiences and your voices matter, and we want to include that in our investments. Cultural Vision Grants will award up to $10,000 to a project. Grantees will be required to provide matching support for project expenses. Usually this means a dollar-for-dollar cash match or some combination of in-kind support that you're bringing to the table in addition to the grant that ASC would offer for your programming. There are some restrictions in who is eligible to apply. Current ASC operating support partners are not eligible for Cultural Vision Grants at this time. Also, if you have a current vision grant that is not yet completed and won't complete before the start of this next application period, you must wait until that grant and project is completed before applying again. Projects that are religious in nature or specifically serve only church membership are not eligible. The same goes for faculty and student body at institutions of higher education. We're looking to support programs that are open to the broad public rather than the specific constituents at your institution. Youth programming during the school day is not eligible. We are glad to support after-school programming, classes for youth, and summer camp experiences. Organizations that are delinquent on paperwork for past ASC grants must get that paperwork taken care of before you're eligible for a new grant. Finally, multiple requests from the same organization are not eligible. There may be some exceptions if you're part of a large organization, such as a YMCA or a college or university. If that is your situation, please reach out to our program staff so that we can help you discerning if you are eligible. We use a two-phase application process to be good stewards of your time and our investments in the community. The first phase of our application is the initial application. This is really the moment where the panel decides which are the projects that show the closest alignment with the Cultural Vision Grant goals and our cultural equity priorities and selects those to move forward into the full application. With the initial application, they will be looking at key components of your proposal, including who your creative leadership is, project partners that you have, and preliminary details about the purpose, financial needs, times, and locations of your program. If you are invited to the full application, you will be asked to submit further detailed budget information, project descriptions, audience development plans, marketing strategies, and goals and evaluation processes that you will employ. ASC staff will consult with applicants throughout the application process. At the initial phase, we're glad to help answer your questions while you are submitting that initial work. And as you move through the full application, we'll be sure that you are addressing key questions from the review panel and that your project is ready to launch if we award funding. All applications must be submitted using our online application system. From the Cultural Vision Grant call on our website at artsandscience.org, use the button that says click here to apply to initiate an application. If you have previously initiated that application, make sure to go to the place where it says click here to continue a previously started application so that you can find the work that you have already begun. The initial application is your key opportunity to pitch your project to the grant panel members. It is meant to be a brief and compelling call for why your project should be supported. We will need key contact information for the lead person managing the application, organizational details if you're applying on behalf of an organization, and fiscal sponsors if you are an organization that does not have your own nonprofit status. You will select one of the 4 Cultural Vision Grant goals and describe how your project helps to meet that community priority. Make sure to tell us about the creatives leading your project and the community partnerships that will help amplify the reach and impact of your project. Provide as much detail as you can about project dates and locations. This is an important part of how panelists assess your readiness to put your ideas into action. We do ask key demographic information to make sure that we are supporting our commitment to cultural equity. And finally, you will provide details about the different sources of financial support you can use to match a grant from ASC. We use this information to understand your need and to determine how much you can request if you are invited to the full application. We, of course, put that information into context with how much we have in funding available to support the projects that have applied. The budget information is founded in the understanding that Cultural Vision Grants are matching grants. Typically, ASC's investment will be no greater than 50% of a project's budget. The 3 questions that we ask related to your budget in the initial application is how much cash? What's the total budget of cash that you will need to make this project possible? How much of that will you be able to raise from other sources? And who are those other sources? Is it another grant or funder that you have supporting you? Do you have sponsors that are helping? Is it things like ticket revenue that you'll be relying on and developing as the project is implemented? You can include both cash expenses and in-kind expenses as part of this description of how you will match the grant if you were invited to receive a Cultural Vision Grant. There are 5 key elements that our panel uses to determine who receives a Cultural Vision Grant. In the initial application, the key components that they're looking at is vision, the evidence that the project will advance the Cultural Vision Grant's objectives to build community and increase relevance and innovation in Charlotte Mecklenburg, and leadership, evidence that your project has the creative leadership and committed partnerships necessary to bring this project to fruition. We go into further detail if you're invited to the full application that helps us have evidence that you know who your audience is and how you will reach that audience, the impact that you will measure as you work through your Cultural Vision Grant project, and a detailed budget will be required as part of your full application. If you are invited to the full application, we will at that point ask for a fuller description of program activities, details on your prospective audience and marketing plans, bios for the key project leaders, letters of support from your program partners, and that detailed budget, as well as a goals and evaluation form. You don't need to worry about that with the initial application, though do make sure that you are as descriptive as you can be in the initial application. That's your key chance to sell us on your project. Thank you for expressing interest in the Cultural Vision Grant. Please reach out if you have questions along the way, and we look forward to hearing the ideas that you are bringing to Charlotte and Mecklenburg to engage all of us in arts, science, history programming that is relevant and meaningful for all of us. Thank you.